What's going on, guys? My name is Joey Speaks, and this is Everyday People, the podcast. Today on the podcast, we have Vince Duchetta. What's going on, Vince?
Hey, man. How you doing, Joey?
Good, man. Good. So Vince is a longtime friend of mine. I met him by taking his kickboxing class right down the street here in Arcadia.
Yep.
10 years ago?
At least. Time's a blur, man. I don't even know. At least 10 years ago. Yeah.
It's been a while. And so I was feeling good. I was able to, to even just bring myself to kind of go to somewhere where I would be throwing kicks. You know what I mean? And so I go into your gym, and I see you. So Vince is 6'5", 285?
Yeah.
Big dude. Big, intimidating guy, yeah. And there was a full class, and it was really cool, man. So I met Vince by going to his class, and I was going once or twice a week, and I went for a couple months until I hurt my knee. But yeah, it was that's how I actually met him, and then we kind of hit it off, and we're really cool, and just kind of kept talking from there.
Yeah. I think you started morning classes, right? You were doing mornings.
Yeah, because I was when I had first. So it had to be before 13 because I was working at home. I was working at home at class, and so I'd be able to go to class, go home, and start working. Yeah. So that was a while ago, but yeah. So kickboxing is for me personally my favorite combat sport is Muay Thai kickboxing.
Okay.
I would love to be able to do it. I can't do it, but when I watch all the arts, I love boxing. I've fallen in love with jiu-jitsu, but it's Muay Thai kickboxing for me. I just love the art of 8 limbs and just being able to, do something against everything all the time on your feet.
It's a great art. It really is. Yeah.
So talk to us about how you got your school and, what brought you to running that gym. And
yeah, so well, I started martial arts when I was 13, I think, 14.
Okay.
Yeah, back in the day, it was 1983. I started at West Coast Shotokan in Temple City, over there on Las Tunas and Cloverly, right by the Ralphs.
Oh, okay.
And it's still there today. The dojo is still there. They think they opened up in 1969. So I started there.
I was born in 1960.
Yeah, you and me both. I got the big 55 coming up in a couple months. And
okay.
Yeah, it's there. So anyway, so I started karate when I was a kid. Did it off and on for a couple years. I loved it. I always wanted to fight, though. That was my problem, is I always wanted to spar. I didn't want to do the other side. I just wanted to spar. And then when I was 21, 22, I found hapkido, and I fell in love with hapkido. And from there, it's been hapkido ever since. Well, I started doing jiu-jitsu and all that stuff about 25 years ago, submission grappling.
Now, hapkido, that's like a wrist lock.
A lot of joint lock. So I'll give you the Reader's Digest version.
Okay.
So there's the grandfather art is called Daito-ryu Aiki Jiu-Jitsu.
Okay.
That was like the old samurai art.
Okay.
And that was designed to attack all the joints because they had armor on. Right?
Okay.
So you couldn't really kick and punch somebody in the stomach or whatever. They had helmets,
right.
So why are you going to do that? Right? That's what I tell people on the street or in class. Like, you're going to fist fight in the street. Don't punch somebody in the head. I mean, this thing's designed to protect the most important thing in the universe. You're not going to hurt somebody with your hand. You're probably going to bust your hand, and then now you only have 7 limbs left, right? Well, 8 including your head if you want to headbutt them. But yeah, so a lot of joint locks, punching, kicking, and we call it twisting, and throwing people. So it's an eclectic art, probably about 65, 70 years old, not that old.
Okay.
But it took a bunch of different arts. It comes from Daito-ryu is the same offshoot as Aikido, like what Steven Seagal does.
Okay.
So the founder of Aikido and the founder of hapkido both studied under the clan member, or the head of the clan was called Duchetta.
Okay.
And he was the head guy. So he trained both of them. One went back to Japan, stayed in Japan, took out a lot of the mean stuff and formed Aikido. The other one went back to Korea, added all the kicking techniques, it's called taekyon, which was an art of just unbalancing people with using their legs.
Okay.
So that's a Reader's Digest, right? We can go for hours. And
I'm sure. Yeah.
But yeah, that's where that started. And then so I ended up managing the school that I was training at.
Okay.
The instructor and I had a falling out back in '98. So then in 2000, I opened up my own school.
Okay, was the first place that you opened right there?
It was on 6th and Live Oak. by the 3-Par, right by the 3-Par in that parking lot.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
So where the barber shop is now.
Yep. Yeah.
That was my place. And then within I think it was the first 8 months, I rented the place next door, blew out the wall, and made it bigger.
Got it.
Because we blew up pretty quick. But I was the first guy to do like a real MMA school in the San Gabriel Valley, where I had the traditional art of hapkido. I added kickboxing. It wasn't Muay Thai kickboxing, but it was like American style kickboxing, which is basically just Western boxing with the kicks. Okay. And then the submission grappling, the jiu-jitsu, if you would. Yeah. So we were the first ones to do that. And that was back in June 5th of 2000. Okay.
So did you like fighting as a kid? Like, was you finding the art that you wanted to practice like a blessing for you, to where like, you know, you were always beating people up, and this was like a way for you to kind of channel your anger and your energy into something?
No, I was a big softie. I was a big timid kid. Never didn't like to fight. I was always scared to fight. But my dad would always teach me like the old 1-2, you know, hitting hands and stuff like that. And he wasn't a boxer, but you know, he showed me like 1 and 2 and how to duck and hook, you know, stuff like that, just from him watching boxing. But no, I was always really timid. I was the quiet, nice kid that got picked on and type of stuff. I had my fights, of course, but it wasn't until I started karate that I would really fight back and fight. And engage with people. I was always scared to fight. I didn't want to fight, even though I was always the bigger kid.
Was class the place that made you realize that, okay, I may be a little bit afraid, but I can do this, and you know, maybe it doesn't hurt as much as I thought it was going to hurt to get hit? Or
yeah, so that's a great point. I always tell people, my students and stuff, you learn to get hit. That's why I really like sparring, and I encourage people to spar a lot. Because you learn that you get hit and it's not the end of the world. Right. It's not like, oh my God, you know, you watch the movie, somebody gets hit and they're knocked out. That doesn't happen. Rare, it happens, but it's rare that it happens. You know, that one punch knockout, it happens. Don't get me wrong. People say, oh, you can't do it. Well, you can do it, but it's not that common for it to happen.
Got it.
You know, but I loved sparring. I loved fighting with my friends, and you know, not going out and fighting in the streets. I mean, it happened. I'm not going to lie, but you know, we had a little dirt and a little past. But it was good. And I really didn't start becoming confident until just before my first degree black belt test. Okay. When I was 23, I think it was. I got my black belt in 2 years and 2 months. It was really fast. In hapkido.
Oh, really?
Yeah. But I was a gym rat. I mean, I was there. I was doing 2-3 classes a day, every day. Didn't want to leave. It got to the point where advanced classes would start, and my instructor would tell me to leave. You can't see this stuff yet, because he knew I was a quick study. I'm a real quick study. You can show me things twice, third time I own it. That's me. I can do it. So I would watch and watch and watch, and I'd be, oh, let me be a partner. You know, let me be a partner for the advanced guys. And then finally he's like, you got to go. Like, you can't be here anymore, because you're learning stuff that you're not ready to learn yet.
Yeah, you don't have the steps before. Yeah, I got it.
But I knew it. You know what I mean? Like, I got it. And that's why he told me, like, no, not yet. You got to go.
So what's the belt structure for hapkido?
So hapkido goes white, yellow, orange, purple, green, blue, brown. Then you get a red belt with 1 stripe. And the red belt with 2 stripes is a half red, half black, and we call that our recommended black belt. So once you get to that, you have to wait a minimum of 6 months before you test for your black belt test. Okay. So there were some belts that I skipped. I tested twice. So I would go from white to orange to green. I skipped belts in between because I knew the curriculum. Okay. So when it was test night, he'd say, you know the next belt? Yeah. Okay, show it to me. So I'd do it, and you're like, okay, well, we'll give you your belt. So that's how I was able to progress in 2 years and 2 months.
What's the typical time that it takes for that?
Probably in hapkido 3 to 4 years, 5 years. Okay. Yeah, and it depends. See, like, that's what I used to tell my dad. Like, everybody's different, but not everybody's like my dad. My dad's a professional musician, and he would practice for hours at a time. Hours. I remember as a little boy he'd be watching TV, playing on his practice pad, playing drums, for hours and hours. I was in hapkido. That was. Okay. That's all I wanted to do.
It was your love. It wasn't. It was your love.
Correct. Yeah. So the average guy only goes in twice a week. So yeah, it's going to take him longer. Yeah. But somebody that has a heart and dedication and wants it bad enough, they're going to get it. They're going to put it's like anything. You put the work in, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like lifting. You don't get gains if you don't lift.
That's right.
Or you can lift, but if you don't lift a lot, right?
Yeah, if you don't lift right, if you don't lift correct.
Yeah.
Right on.
So when I got just before my first degree black belt test, we were doing a demonstration somewhere, and my instructor handed me the microphone and said, "Okay, tell everybody what I'm doing." I was like, what are you doing? I don't know what the hell you're doing. So I had to talk in front of everybody. There was probably like 300 or 400 people there. I had to talk on the microphone. I was that guy that didn't want to get up in class and talk. I don't want to talk in front of people, but trial by fire made me do it. And ever since then, I can talk. I can get up and talk to people. It could be 5,000, 10,000. I don't care. I can do it now. I still get the jitters, of course.
Sure.
But somebody told me one time, you know who Don Fry is?
Of course.
Okay. So
didn't you post a picture with him one time?
I got a picture of him, and then a picture of Brian Johnston, who I fought in Japan.
Okay.
So we were in Japan, and we were backstage, and he told me, I was talking to Don Fry. He's like, "How you feeling?" I'm like, "Oh, fuck, man, I'm nervous." I don't know if I can say that or not. Just bleep it out.
You're good.
I'm like, "I'm nervous, man." He's like, "Look," he's like, "when you get out there, don't look past the first 4 rows of people, and you're going to be fine." There's like 10,000 people there.
Yeah.
I was shitting bricks. Like I didn't know, right? So I got out there and I standing behind the curtain, ready for the curtain to open. Curtain opens up and there's a camera in my face, spotlights. I can't see nothing. I'm supposed to walk and go down the steps off the stage. I almost walked off the stage because I couldn't see the steps.
Right.
So anyway, made it to the ring and didn't look up. I looked up the first couple rows and got through it, and I was okay. And I use that when I speak to people. So I look, when I was taught, when you're speaking, always make eye contact, look around the room, but I'm not making eye contact. I'm looking over your head.
Got you. Interesting.
That takes the edge off a little bit, because you're not subconsciously, you're not on the spotlight. People aren't looking at you, because if I'm talking and all of a sudden I look in your eyes, like you're looking back in my eyes, like, uh-oh.
Yeah, there's that uncomfortable.
Yeah.
I got
like,
you.
oh, he's really listening to me right now.
So that's interesting. A little bit different scenario, but my scenario. So I hated talking on camera, public speaking. It's not the worst thing. I've heard that some people would rather die than do public speaking.
Yeah.
It's like a whole thing. But I don't like it. When the pandemic hit and I started doing Zoom, I started to get much more comfortable talking to the camera. But the big thing that really helped me was that I was talking to people who I knew. I didn't feel like I had to impress anybody. I didn't feel like I had to, to do anything different than I did with the people, because everyone was coming to the gym and then everyone was not. But those same people were coming to Zoom. So all of a sudden, I'm here in the gym, they're at home, and I just felt so comfortable. And I realized that, like, oh, we're all just people. And by no stretch of the imagination am I great at this or really good at this. Like, I'm much better than I was before. I just feel much more comfortable. Like when I'm looking at you and I'm talking to you, I do feel like, even though I'm looking at the camera lens, I know that there's someone there.
Right.
And so, like, it being able to talk to my people, my clients, for months, and it's been 3.5 years now.
Yeah.
So when I do videos now, like, I feel so much more comfortable. I'm able to actually genuinely smile and say what I want to say, as opposed to always thinking about what am I going to say next? Am I going to? And it's so nerve-wracking.
Right.
It really is. My wife is really good at public speaking, and it's just natural for her. She can get up in front of people and talk, and you would never know how nervous she was. She always tells me how nervous she is, but she never comes off like that. And like, it took me a long time just to get not good but comfortable. So that's interesting. That so Don Fry, he was early UFC.
Yes.
But he
Pride.
Pride, right? Yeah. Don Fry, the fight he had with the
Korean Rod Stewart,
the big Korean guy.
Yeah, the blonde hair.
I mean, I know you've seen that, right?
Oh yeah, of course.
Was it like 40 seconds of them literally just holding the back of each other's head, just punching each other?
Yeah.
If I can find that clip, I don't know if I can put it in the video or if I'm gonna post a link to it. But if you like fighting, this was the craziest 30 or 40 seconds.
Oh, nuttiest thing ever.
Yeah. It was.
That was just let's see who has a bigger set. Let's just go.
Yeah. They literally grabbed the back of each other's head and they punched each other in the face until they got tired. And then they kept doing it was crazy. Anyway, if I can, I'll put it in the video. If not, I'll put a link to it.
Almost hard to watch, right? Like,
yeah.
Like, oh my God, you're gonna sit there and take it like that? Like, okay, more power to you, I guess.
Yeah. Kind of crazy.
Not for me.
So So let's talk about your fighting days. You know, I know that you. So I always thought you were a Muay Thai fighter.
Okay.
And then when you told me no, you so I know you did hapkido, but was your actual discipline karate?
So my first discipline was karate, but I only got my blue belt in karate when I was a kid. I ended up getting my first degree black belt when I was 22, I think, 23. I don't remember exactly. But I started, we used to do a lot of point fighting, where it's like a game of tag type of thing. Then my friend Mr. Barnes, Chadwell Barnes, he owned a school called Showdown Training Center in Covina.
Okay.
And he came up with this event, which was like full contact karate. It was point karate, but with contact that allowed throwing.
Okay.
And nobody knew how to throw like we did.
Okay.
So we kind of had a little bit of an advantage, but people started getting wise to it, right? So our biggest forte is throwing people off of kicks. And I'll shoot you a video. You can put it in here so people can understand. So if somebody throws a kick at us, we, instead of moving back, we move forward. And that's our water principle, moving in. And it's like a wave going around a pillar. It just conforms to any shape or size, whatever it goes in. So we would throw the crap out of everybody. And you get 3 points for a throw, 1 point for a punch. So why not throw people?
Right. Yeah.
Right? So people stopped throwing kicks at us after a while. So then we adapted, and we have techniques where we throw people at punches.
Okay.
So we started throwing people at off of punches, and became proficient at that, to the point where our instructor and our head instructor, the Grandmaster, the late Grandmaster Kim, told us, he's like, you guys are doing things that I never even thought would be applicable. Like, it's in the art, but I didn't really ever see it applied, because we don't see fights like that, that allow throwing and whatnot. Okay. So we started throwing people off of hands. And that was pretty incredible. That was pretty fun to do. Because then you see the people look in their eyes, just like, what do I do? Like, I can't throw a punch at you. You're gonna throw me. Can't throw a kick at you. You're gonna throw me. So they would just mostly revert to punching. So our philosophy is we kick a puncher and throw a kicker. Okay. Because our legs are longer than the hands, right? So if I see you coming with hands, I'm gonna try and kick you. Just makes more sense. Yeah. So that's kind of like how the WKO started. So when I was coming up, I used to fight up rank. So I would fight my belt rank at tournaments, karate tournaments and stuff like that. Then when I got to be a red belt, we would go to Vegas every 3 months to fight in tournaments. They have big tournaments out there. So a bunch of us would go, and that was the guise of the trip, was karate tournaments, right? But okay, we were 21, 22 years old. We were going to party.
You were going to Vegas?
Yeah. Well, to the point where my instructor was he competed as well, but he also did the demo competitions, which is like a self-defense demo, and you get graded on your techniques. And so he would do a 5-person defense against 5 people attacking him. So we'd go there, we'd all get thrown around, get our asses kicked by him. Well, he got pissed at us because the day of his competition, none of us slept, and we were out partying till dawn. I mean, we were on one, right? So we showed up, we're pie-eyed, our eyes are all blitzed, and he looks at us, and you could just tell he's pissed, man. He's really pissed. But we did it. We pulled it off, and he put it on us, though. I'll tell you that much. Like it wasn't the normal demo. Like we paid for our sins, if you would. He wasn't. But we asked him. I said, "Can I fight black belt?" He's like, "Nah." Okay, yeah, you guys can do it, because we would hang with black belts and sometimes beat them, and at least be competitive with them. So that's when I started fighting at black belt level. Was about a year before my actual black belt test. And when that showdown started, you had to be a black belt to fight in it. Okay. So I used to ask Mr. Barnes, I want to compete. Nope, you're not a black belt yet. Damn it. So I started training to fight before I got my black belt. Okay. So I already knew I'm going to be the champ. I'm going to be that belt. And in fact, I am the first heavyweight champion of the WKO in that organization. Oh, really? Yeah. So it was a vacant belt. But I fought my way up. They had to fight qualifying events. Okay. So we had these events where you had to earn points. You show up,
almost like an elimination tournament.
Correct. Okay. But you get points. So even if you were the champion, you could still fight these qualifying events. Didn't affect your title, but you bank points.
Got it. Got it. Thing. No, was this in America?
No, yeah, this is here. This is in Southern California. So I would the title was vacant, but I was going to these qualifiers. But he wasn't giving me any points because I didn't have my black belt yet. Okay. But he saw my heart, right? So he let me fight for the vacant title first. So I ended up fighting. I remember fought a guy named Danny Wooten out of Pasadena. He was a karate guy, and he's the first. I mean, I've hit people hard before, but you ever watch like in the movies and even in boxing matches slow mo when somebody gets hit and you see the spray go all over the place from the head? I hit him, wow, and I remember under the lights, he was a bald guy. I just see sweat go pow, like flying off his head. And I was like, holy shit, that was cool. that was really cool. I even apologized to him. I'm like, dude, are you all right? I'm sorry, man, I hit you a little too hard. And he looked at me, he was all, his eyes were spinning.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was the first start. But I got to tell you what, man, going back to like talking in front of people and being in front of people, when they called my name, they introduced me, we probably had at least 300, there was, I think, 600 or 700 people there, and about 300 or 400 people were our ticket sales from what we sold. So we had a big crowd there. And it was at the VFW in Covina. Okay. And the whole place just erupted when they called my name, right? I was walking behind the crowd to get to the ring, and I literally turned around. Fuck this, I'm out of here. I'm sorry, my French keeps popping up. I don't want to do it. I started walking around, and my buddy turned me around. We went back to the ring and stepped into the ring, and talk about that adrenaline dump, man. People don't really understand the adrenaline dump and what it is. I'm sure you felt it playing pro sports, but the average Joe doesn't know what it is, right? And I didn't know what it was when I walked into the ring. And I've been in fights before, but I didn't understand what it was. And I felt like my legs weighed 1,000 pounds. The mat was slippery. I turned around my coach. I'm like, man, I can't fight. The mat's all slippery. He's like, shut up, you're gonna be fine, right? So we put a little water down. We learned water on canvas makes it stick. So a lot of times if you see fighters, they'll take a drink over their water, they'll spit it on the ground, and
they like
move
basketball
their feet in there, and that keeps you from slipping on the canvas. But what I learned was, and I always use the quote from Rocky when Mick was talking, Rocky was talking about Frankie Fear. Remember that? I think it's Rocky 5 with
Frankie Fear on your shoulder.
Right? So he can be your best friend or your worst enemy. And what I learned was that's your flight or fight syndrome. Okay. So for you people watching at home, what happens is, like, if you ever been on a bicycle and you're going to crash and you know you're going to crash and everything kind of like, oh, it goes slow motion for a second and then bam, and then you hit. Or a car accident, you see it coming, it seems like time is standing still. Time is standing still. And that's your brain shooting out all kinds of adrenaline to keep you alive, so you have time to react and respond to the situation. And I didn't learn that until I was fighting, what that was, and I started researching it, and then it made sense that time literally does, your mind slows down time. Because when I would fight, it would take me a good minute. I felt like I was like this, fighting, slow motion, like a dream, right? When you can't punch in a dream, and you're trying all your hardest, and you just can't get that energy out. But then I go back and watch the video, and it was fast. And that was my mind. So I learned after a few fights, I had my buddy crack me good in the corner. In fact, I have a picture, and I'll send it to you so you can, if you want to add it to this, of him standing on the ring apron, me standing there facing him, and you can see my jaw clenched because I got pissed off because he hit me too hard. I'm like, dude, why so hard?
Just wake me up, don't knock me out.
But it woke me up. It was really weird, and I was on point. I had no lethargy, nothing. Nothing. I was good to go. But it took me a while to learn that, and I like to tell people about that because it could save your life one day. If you're accosted or somebody's holding you up at ATM or some crazy stuff like that, and all of a sudden you start feeling that feeling, you gotta learn to control it, and you can learn to control it. And one of the things that I learned was the adrenaline dump before a fight, and you'll talk to any fighter will tell you this, you start dumping early in the day. So when it comes time to fight, you're done, you're drained. Because Mick also says for a 45-minute fight, you got to train 45,000 minutes, right? And the reason being is half of your energy, as soon as you step foot into that ring, is gone. Just from the event, the actual event itself.
The enormity of the event.
Right. Well, it's kind of like when you walked on a pro field for the first time, probably. Like, oh my God, I can't.
I felt that when I played at Dodger Stadium the first time.
Right.
Well, the only time, but
you get the jitters. You're tired. And I used to tell the Mr. Barnes, who was a promoter, one time the fights were going late, and it was already 11 o'clock at night. I hadn't fought yet. I said, look, if I'm not up in 15 minutes, I'm out. I'm going to go. I've been milking this adrenaline all day long. So what I was going to get at is you learn to milk it. So you learn to release a little bit at a time, throughout the day, so that you don't dump. And now by the time it's ready to fight, you got nothing left. So it's and a lot of pro players, football, basketball, baseball, boxing, whatever, they'll tell you the same thing. They still get those we'll call them pre-fight jitters.
Yeah.
And they learn to control it.
Yeah, they get into a specific routine that they do every time the same way, so they know what they're going to get by the time they get to the game or to the fight. Yeah.
And it's interesting. It's a good life experience. I don't regret. I have no regrets.
Yeah.
You know, in anything that I've ever done, everything has happened for a reason.
Yeah.
And I've learned from it. If I made mistakes, I've learned from them. And like that adrenaline dump was a huge thing for me.
Yeah. Well, I don't think there's any way to prepare. I've never done what you've done. I don't think that from the things I have done, there's no way to prepare for the bigness of the moment. Like the moment is the moment, and like you're either ready for it or you're not, and you can learn from it the first time. But like you can practice, you can do all the stuff you need to do to drill and to be ready for whatever it is that you're doing. But like, man, like it's different when you're in front of the team or in front of the guy, and you're in front of 5,000, 10, 20,000 people. It's just different, and it's very hard to explain. But when you're there, like it all makes sense, and then you kind of get a chance to take a step back and okay, I played 30 games in high school per year for baseball. When I got to the minor leagues, it was 140 games. I had to learn how to pace myself.
Yeah, that's a big jump.
It's just such a difference, and you know, like I never even thought about that.
Yeah.
Until I got there. So like, and obviously, like I said, you and I have done very different things, but the competition, how you get ready for a competition, is going to be the same for each individual sport. But it's still like I had to figure out how to get myself ready. You had to figure out how to get yourself ready, and it just what works for you may work really good for you, but not for the next guy. They may need to do something different.
Right. They have to experience it first.
100%. 100%.
Yeah, you got to experience it. And I used to, leading up to my fights, I would dream about my fights.
Really?
But I would never dream of the actual fight. So I would dream of going up to the ring. I would dream getting into the ring. I would dream go time, the bell, and then I was standing there with my hand raised.
You know what? So that's a good place to take a quick little break. I want to talk about, when we come back, I want to talk about how you would get ready for a fight, how you train, and you're kind of just the way you would think about what you were doing, and then I want to talk about some of the stuff about the fight.
For sure.
All right, we'll be right back, guys. And we're back. All right, Vince. So you were talking about you would have a dream, and you would see everything. You get to the ring, and then the fight would be over. You raise your hand, and So walk us through that.
Yeah, it was pretty crazy. The only time that I didn't have an outcome is the one fight that I lost. And I got my nose broken. They stopped the fight. They wouldn't let me continue because it smashed on the other side of my face, and I was pissed, whatever. But that's the only time that I did dream about the fight, but the fight was over and there was nothing. We were just walking around in limbo. So it's really weird how the mind works. I think, if that was I'm a firm believer in self-fulfilling prophecies.
Okay.
I believe that you can make things happen to a certain extent. You know what I mean? The will and all that kind of stuff. But that was, part of fight preparation is a lot of mental.
Yeah.
Right? So it's a lot of what's going to happen, what can happen, how do I prepare for if something happens, or what's going to happen. And for me, most of the time it was studying the other guy's art. Okay. Not so much the other guy, because back then there wasn't a lot of film on people. There wasn't nothing like
it was
today.
It was different.
I mean, people had film, pros, boxers, and all that stuff. They had film. They could watch tape and video or for hours or whatever. But I just studied the art. So if I study the art, I kind of know how he's going to come at me.
Just their style.
Their style, yeah.
Okay.
And that's what we would really prepare for.
Okay. So just give me an idea, like a high level overview of like what would your training camp look like? Were you 4 weeks, 6 weeks, 8 weeks?
Yeah, probably.
Did you go away?
So there wasn't really. It's not like today with the MMA. It's not like where they're putting in 6, 8 week, 10-week training camps. Okay. Even in boxing, they do an 8, 12-week training camp, because we were always training anyway. So when you go to class or you go to the studio, we were part of this black belt club, which was a little bit more elite than the normal guy would come in to to train.
Okay.
So we were kind of like the special forces of the association, if you would.
Got it.
So we got extra training, and that would consist of an hour of just kicking drills, punching drills, where we would do crazy drills where you lift one leg up and you hop and kick across the mat
1,000 times.
1,000 times.
Yeah, yeah,
and you do the other leg 1,000 times. You'd have to lift your leg up, coach would hold the pad up, and you'd have to jump up over the pad and kick it and land on one leg. So, I mean, like you said, I'm 6'5", right? So I'm 6'5". Back then I was probably 265, 270. I think the lightest I was as an adult, right before my black belt test, I was down to 235 for a day.
For a day.
For a day. And then I carried like 245 for like 6 months.
Okay.
250. Now, but I mean, I was 36-inch waist.
Lean.
Yeah. It's hard for the people to picture it because they don't know me or see me, but that was really small for me.
Yeah, yeah.
But, you know, it was all beat out, you know, looking good, feeling good, all that good stuff. But we did a lot of conditioning, traditional conditioning, not a lot of weights. Me personally, I never did road work.
Okay.
Because I don't hate running. I don't run. I would swim. For my conditioning.
Swimming's rough.
Do a lot of swimming. But most of the conditioning came via fighting and sparring or whatever, and kicking drills, punching drills, throwing drills.
So you were practicing what you were going to do.
Correct.
For conditioning, for skill.
Correct.
Like, so you used it in different ways. So like Sean Strickland.
I was just going to say, he does the same thing. That's his philosophy. In my opinion, he goes a little too hard. He's been outed from a lot of gyms, ousted from a lot of gyms because he goes a little too hard.
Yeah.
But whatever. I mean, that's his gig. He's champ, right?
Yeah.
I love watching him. He's funny to listen to. He's crazy.
Yeah.
You know. But I'm a firm believer in sparring and application is what makes you a good fighter.
So and I agree with that. I also think that practice itself is, I don't know if I would say as important. And now, like, I cannot speak to the fight game for me personally. Just for, you know, playing baseball and football, of course, scrimmaging and playing, there's nothing you can get better than live action.
Absolutely.
But for me, at least for playing baseball, you know, if I'm trying to figure things out as someone's throwing 92, 93 at me, I have no chance if I'm trying to figure things out. I have to get my swing down at the cage, seeing thousands of pitches in batting practice, and then when I get into the up to the plate against somebody, now I'm just reacting with what I've done 1,000 times, 10,000 times. Where I think in fighting, just from the outside looking in, I totally get, you know, like, man, like how can you get more sharp than actually fighting?
Right.
I could definitely see where, oh, maybe you work on your left hook this many times, maybe you throw it from this angle. Like, I can see both sides of it. And like I said, you know, one thing I never ever want to do is, I love the fight game, whether it's boxing, jiu-jitsu, Muay Thai, UFC. I never criticize any of those guys or ladies because I've never done it.
Right.
That's number one. But number two, what works for you or somebody else works for you or somebody else, you know? When I see things, I always see things as, I always liked to practice when I was young. I always loved to practice. I got so much benefit from, I would just be able to stop thinking. I was really young when I realized that I would go into autopilot. And this is a trip. Check this out. So I'm in the 8th grade. I'm at Byrd Junior High, and we're running around the field, and it was a huge field. And I forgot why we were running so long or whatever, but I kind of got into that, I guess I want to call it the runner's high, I think. Because the next thing you know, I started to feel good. I didn't feel like I felt like euphoric, but I felt good. But my legs were just going without me trying. I had gotten tired. I'm thinking, oh, when are we going to be done with this? And I kept going. The next thing you know, I'm like, oh, like I'm just going. And so like I realized that, like, when I stopped thinking, at that point I stopped thinking. My body was moving. I loved practice. My mom and my dad Earl, they would take me to Buddy's Badway. We would just go swing until my hands were raw, and I would just swing. I would go in the slow cage. I would go in the fast cage. I would go in the medium cage. And then when I would face somebody, I would just be up to bat.
Right.
I dig my feet in, and I'm looking at you. You're looking at me, and now I'm just waiting for the pitch, and I'm not thinking. I don't think. Get my hands back. Get my foot set. Get my shoulder back. All that stuff happened before.
There's a terminology for that, and it's called no mind.
Okay.
So it's mind, no mind.
Okay.
And I'm going to touch base on that in a second, but I want to go back to what you said earlier, and because you already said it. You said it once, but then when you were saying something, you said it a little bit different, but it's the same thing.
Okay.
So you said you train to react. Right?
Yes. Yeah.
But you don't. You train to respond.
Huh.
Because you have a response. So if that pitcher's coming with an open elbow at 3/4 now versus his over the top, now you have a response for that because you know where that pitch is going to be coming.
Okay.
Right. So let's say you know he's by his hand position he's throwing a curveball. Well, you're not reacting to the curveball, but you're going to respond to that curveball.
Okay.
So in fighting, in martial arts, we teach not a reaction because a reaction is this. A response is a controlled reaction.
Okay.
If you
Okay.
will, right. So that's one way of looking at it, right?
Yeah.
And then
I never thought of it like that. Okay.
yeah, we always teach people because growing up we always heard practice makes perfect. Does it? No. What makes perfect?
I don't happen to agree with that statement, but I know what people mean.
Right.
And they mean well, but I don't agree with that statement personally.
But you will after I say this.
Okay.
Perfect practice makes perfect. Because you can practice something and be shitty in your practice, right? But if you practice perfection, if you practice your technique perfectly, you should ultimately be perfect in your practice, right? Okay. So that's kind of how we would teach it in the school. But going back to no mind, what you just said is I told my buddy Walt, he was one of my students, and I explained it, no mind to him too, and it makes sense. Did you ever see the movie The Last Samurai with Tom Cruise?
I have not.
Oh God, okay, put that on your list.
Okay.
You got to watch that one. So there's a scene where he, I don't want to blow it, but there's a scene where he has to fight a bunch of guys, 3 or 4 guys, whatever, with swords and whatnot, and he goes. They fight, whatever, and he finishes him, and he stops, and it's over. And he's in that action pose on the ground with one knee on the ground and his sword back, and he's kind of looking around, and then he goes back and he replays what happened in his head because he went no mind. It's called no mind, where you don't think, you just do. Mm-hmm. Okay, you've seen the Sherlock Holmes movies with what's his name? The guy from Lesson Zero, Robert Downey Jr.
I love Robert Downey Jr., but I've never seen it.
Okay. He does kind of the same thing in his movies, where in Sherlock Holmes, he's in a fight, and then he calls out what he's going to do because he sees the guy, right? So he reads what he's going to do. So he says, I'm going to do this, it's elbow strike. And he has a names for him, whatever. Yeah. And then does all this stuff. And then the fight happens and it comes to fruition. He does every single move that he just already played out in his head.
Okay.
Right? So that's in the martial arts, they call it mind, no mind. Where you empty your mind and just let things happen because your training's already done. Right. Just like when you get up to bat, you've already swung that bat 1,000 times. You already know how to recognize the release point. You've studied that pitcher. That's what the on deck circle's for, right? Yeah. You're watching him release. You're watching where his foot lands. Is his foot pointing? Is his toe pointing out? Is his toe pointing in? Those are little nuances that people don't get. Yeah. So when I'm fighting, I look for those nuances in the fight. Right. So I can make you throw things for my response.
You can set them up.
I can set you up to make you attack me a certain way. Right. So to play into my defense, right? So, for instance, everybody 9 times out of 10, before somebody throws a kick or a punch, they take a little step. Mm-hmm. Right. That little step tells me something's coming. So when you take that step, I'm stepping forward. I'm coming in. So I already know, like if your hands are in a certain position, you're throwing a kick. If your hands are up, you're probably going to come with a hand. So those are like the little chess plays, the little nuances that come into it. It's the same thing like jiu-jitsu. Jiu-jitsu is a chess match. Jiu-jitsu is awesome because they're already 5 moves ahead of you. Right. You're starting to think, okay, I'm going to put my hand here and go here. Well, that arm's gone. Forget it. Don't even post up with that hand because the guy's going to eat it, and you're going to.
You know what's funny? So you're so right on, and what you just described, what I heard, is levels. So someone is going to throw a kick at you. Not only are you're not defending the kick, you are seeing it before it's happening, and you already have a response.
Correct.
To it. And so but if you're not at a certain level, you're not even thinking about stuff like that. You're just thinking, oh, I'm about to get kicked. Right. What do I do? And so kind of what you were saying before, where when you were in a black belt and your master was saying, oh, well, you shouldn't be learning this because you haven't gotten all the steps before that. When you are, I call it the zone. I guess that's the best phrase to make it sound to where everyone can understand what it is. When you're in the zone, you see things that aren't there yet. One of the best descriptions. So Roy Jones is my favorite fighter. Roy Jones Jr. is the greatest boxer I've ever seen. Muhammad Ali is for me the greatest, but Roy Jones Jr., I've never seen anyone do the things Roy Jones Jr. did. Anyway, Floyd Mayweather Jr. said he is such a great defensive fighter. One of the things that he could see that other people couldn't see was he looks at their elbows. And so what the second the elbow starts to break one way or the other, something's happening. And so if you watch the way that he defends himself, he's out of the way before you literally are actually 100%. Into the punch. And so that's what he saw. And then you see things that you see. And then I saw things so everyone has their own little things. And so like it is such a trip, you know, like when people are watching sports, it's so easy to sit on the couch or wherever you're at watching the game and you say, oh, how come he didn't this? And how come he didn't? There's so many little things that are happening that the naked eye does not see. Right. And then when you, especially now because YouTube is so big and you can listen to what they're saying because they describe the fight and they tell you what they were thinking. And you're like, oh. And it's really cool to like the things that you're saying right now like are really cool to me because I can relate in my sports. Right. Obviously not what you do, but like, yeah, okay, like so you see things where you do. Okay, I see the same things the same way, just in different sports. It's very interesting. I've always said I'm a group before a great athlete. I just love the art of the way that the body moves and whether it's fighting or whether it's throwing a ball or, you know, people think it's easy to throw a ball. You ever see half the people in the world throw a ball? Yeah. It's hard to watch. Like me throwing left-handed. Pretty much. But like, man, like there's so much stuff that goes into everything that you see people do that makes them great. Like it's not a coincidence that you ended up being as great as you were. One of the first things you said, like you were a gym rat. You were not only in class just twice a week like everybody else was, you were in class 2-3 times a day. Yeah. And then the results follow. Yeah. You know? And it's funny because like when I used to watch I don't really watch UFC too much anymore. Every once in a while, but not like it was back in the day. But it was to a point where we'd be with my buddies, we'd be watching it, and I'd be calling the fight before they would throw stuff. Yeah. I'd be like, oh, here comes a roundhouse, or here comes this, and they're like, what are you doing? Like, why don't you become a commentator? That doesn't surprise me for you, to be honest. Like, I could definitely see that. Yeah, but like what you're saying about Roy Jones Jr., you know, and Floyd Mayweather. So a lot of times, I don't know if you remember when I was coaching you guys, I'd tell you guys keep your elbows in and throw it from here, right? Yeah. Because as soon as you do this, your elbows are out. You're opening daylight. Well, you're showing them, hey, this is coming. Versus this straight out, you can't really see it. But if I do this first and then pop it out, so little nuances like that are key. A lot of people used to always say, oh, look at people's eyes, you know, from like Miyagi, Karate Kid, always look at your opponent's eyes. No way. I never look at your eyes. If I'm fighting with you, I'm looking at you center mass or at your belt. Because here I can see everything. I can see your feet move. I can see your hips move. Right. There's got to a point back in the day where I could tell if you were going to start to throw a kick or a punch by seeing your belt twitch. Oh yeah. Because your hips move first, right? So when I teach boxing here at the gym, I always tell people, don't stare at my chest, but look at my chest and then peripherally see everything else. Because obviously they don't have to look for your feet in just regular boxing. So if you look at the chest, you can see everything peripherally. But if you're staring at it, then obviously, you know, so like but it makes much more sense if you're able to kick and you're looking a little bit lower as well. It's looking at someone's eyes is it's like when you're playing football, you're looking at the guy shake his head as he's trying to shake you. Look at his stomach, and his stomach won't go anywhere that his body won't go. Correct. You know, so like it's cool though. Those things are cool. To me, that's the fun part of the game. So like I told you before, like with the challenges and everything. Oh, by the way, this is the champ. We're about to get into the challenge in a minute. Yeah. But going, like I always tell you, like to me, it's a game. Even when I used to fight in karate tournaments, I never got the adrenaline dump because it was a game. I was always having fun. I was like playing, you know. It didn't turn into adrenaline dump until it was for real, like for a belt in front of 500, 600, 700 people, 10,000 people. It's like, oh shit, this is real now. So karate tournaments were just like for your school compared to you actually being like a professional fighter. Correct. So we would go to like, sometimes they were held in high school gyms. Sometimes they were held in halls, like in Vegas, that big, you know, halls that had like 20 rings in there and. Oh, wow. You know, just the whole big thing, kind of like the Karate Kid, like what they did in the movie Karate Kid, right? So stuff like that. But it's always fun to me. It's a game. So even in sparring, I never got fear of, oh shit, this guy. I used to call it the black belts because I wanted to get better. Oh, you used to call out the black belt? Yeah, in sparring time. I'd walk up, you know, respectfully, of course. I'd walk up to, you know, whoever, hey, you know, Mr. Chmielewski or Mr. Ta or whoever, okay, can I spar with you? Okay, you know, it was a sparring class. Yeah, sure, come on. So the way it would work is we would all line up
and then all the black belts and higher ranks would be on one side, lower ranks on the other side, and we would rotate. We'd go down the line. We would fight everybody for about half hour, 45 minutes. Okay. And then after that, it was free sparring. So we'd do like 2 minutes each guy.
Okay.
So you get a different look from everybody.
Yeah, yeah.
And then after that, it was free sparring. You could spar with whoever you want. You could not spar, whatever. So I would always, I went 2 hours, man, 3 hours sometimes. I was just like, let's go. We used to go, I'd go to Alhambra to headquarters. We'd go spar there, and then we'd haul ass back to Arcadia and go spar there. So we were all over the place. And then we'd go out to Pomona one night to spar out there. We'd go out to San Dimas and spar out there at their studio because I wanted different looks. And that's what got us so good. You know, we were like,
I believe in that.
Yeah.
I believe in that.
Yeah, we were pretty much like the cream of the crop of the association.
Yeah, yeah.
Grandmaster Kim told me one time, he said, every 10,000 waves in the ocean, one piece of gold will come up in the wave, right? So after every 10,000 pieces, maybe 10,000 waves, maybe one little piece of speck of gold will come up. He said, you, Chmielewski, Tony Lee, you guys are gold. And that was his way of saying, like, out of the hundreds of black belts that he produced, there's only a handful that,
like the chosen few.
They're like the chosen few. Like,
yeah, nice.
And that was really nice. That made an impact on me. You know, it was like, oh, I'm doing something right.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah, right on.
So it was cool.
So you see the shirt that Vince is wearing. I do my transformation challenges, as you guys know. The next one's coming up. Actually, I'm not sure when this is going to air, so I'm not sure if this is going to be up at that time. Anyway, so Vince and I have a lot of things in common as far as the way that our bodies have reacted to what we've done over our entire lives, all the injuries that we've had. And so Vince joined. He's been in a number of my challenges. And what sucks is that I would say in maybe half of them,
at least half of them,
you've probably gotten hurt halfway through.
Yeah, I got hurt, came down with the cancer the one time, and crazy stuff happens.
Yeah. So the times that you've had injuries, and thank God you're cancer free.
Yeah,
everything's good. When you've had injuries, you know, one of the things that is very hard to do, especially as we get older, it's easier said than done. Is you got to listen to your body. You got to, you know, do what you can. You can't go too hard. And, you know, like when you're used to doing things a certain way, you do things the way that you do them. So I say all that to say the last challenge that I did was last year, January 2023. Letty won for the ladies and Vince won for the men. And you were consistent the entire way through. And so Vince and I, we talk all the time, you know, we were texting and everything. And it was your consistency. And a couple of times you would say, you know, like, I pulled back when I needed to. I stopped when I knew that I should. And that was the key.
That was the key.
It really was. And so, like, then you have a guy who's ex-professional fighter and, like, you know how to do all this stuff. Now all the things that you knew how to do were really coming into play because you weren't getting hurt.
Correct.
And man, it makes such a difference.
And I think that the key to it was starting slower and not going full bore right off the bat. Because as a competitor, all I know is go. I have to go. That's why I had put on so much weight over the years. One of the reasons, well, obviously you can't put the fork down, right? But if you're not training, you know, if you're training hard, like I've kept the weight off for a year. I've kept my shape. I've been lifting. Yeah. I haven't really changed my eating habits. I mean, I eat a little bit cleaner, but I still eat. I'll get a cheeseburger and pizza every now and again, whatever. But I'm working out consistently, right? So as a competitor, when I open my school, I can't train and teach at the same time. So if you're coming to my class, you notice I never trained with you guys, ever, right? Because I can't. Because I'm a selfish bastard like that. If I'm training, it's only me, dude. I don't care about you.
Yeah.
And as a studio owner, I couldn't do that.
Yeah.
I need to look at your feet. I need to look at your hands. Joey, get your hands out. Joey, turn your foot. Turn your hips. All that stuff. If I'm training, I got blinders on. I'm looking in the mirror. I'm focusing on myself, and that's it. So I had to stop training. And then when it was time after 4 or 5 classes are done a night, and it's time for me to work out, I'm going home. I don't want to be here no more.
Yeah.
You know, but the key, like you said, was starting slow and being consistent throughout that whole thing, backing off when I felt my shoulder twinge or my back twinge a little bit, but then picking it right back up and going, you know, hardcore. But a lot of times during that challenge, when I couldn't lift and I couldn't do heavy stuff, I would go play racquetball.
Yeah,
or
yeah.
I would go swimming and go sit in the sauna and sweat and do all that stuff. So I kept it up, even though I had to pull back a little bit. I found that the balance.
Right.
You know, and I get, I'm sure you get it, and you people at home that are listening to this, don't do this. If you're ever thinking, I'm going to wait till get in shape before I start coming in to train, don't do that. I used to get that all the time. People would come in, ask for kickboxing classes, jiu-jitsu. Well, I think I'm going to get in shape first before. No. Get your ass in here. That's how you're going to get in shape.
That's right. And that is very common, and it's an embarrassment thing. You know, it's not just the embarrassment of the moment. It's that I think that a lot of us feel like, oh, well, you know, like it's really kind of coming to fruition that I said I was going to work out the last year, 2 years, 3 years. I said I was going to, and so like it's a inner conversation battle that I think that a lot of people struggle with, and it's very common. Yeah. And this is what I have learned. I tell people the same thing that you tell them, but I'm not as forceful as I used to be before I became a trainer. When I became a trainer, my job is to try to figure out how to reach each individual person, as opposed to me just being a guy who used to play ball and now I go hard, and like if you ask me a question, I'm going to tell you, yeah, this is what I do, this is what you should do, and like it's like you said, when you're training yourself, your blinders are on compared to when you're coaching.
Right.
Big difference. So as I became a trainer, I realized that there's some people that I have to push, and some people I talk to this way, other people I talk to this way, and I learned that when I was coaching my son's baseball team, because there was some kids who were really, really good and some kids who were not quite as good as them, but I coached them. I gave them all equal attention, but I gave them different attention. Mm-hmm. And then as a group, we won the championship. And so that really taught me a big lesson about coaching people. And so like he's right, don't wait to get in shape, get in there. And it is, it's easier said than done, but it's necessary. You have to get over what you're feeling, the embarrassment, the whatever it is that you're feeling, and do it. Because at the end of the day, if you don't, the only person who's going to suffer is you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Whether it's me, whether it's you, it does not matter. Like, there's no magic to this, you know? It's you follow what works for you. You do it consistently. And whether it is doing the transformation challenge where you were on it with your food and you were on it with your car, and if you couldn't do this, you did that. Whether you're fighting, whether you're playing football, whether you're playing it does not matter, man. Like, if you listen to everybody's story, there are so many common denominators. Everyone's story is a little bit different, but everything's the same.
Still the same, yeah.
You know, so like it's just the consistency at what you do. And, you know, I think that not just with the challenge or with your fighting career or me playing ball or whatever, man, like you just have to keep moving.
Yeah, absolutely.
You have to keep moving. If you lose, you got to get up. If you get hurt, you got to heal up. When I go to Eden Canyon, I always see a little puddle by itself, and I would see all the shit on the top of it because there's no life in the water. It's just a separated puddle from the running water, and you can see all the crap rise to the top. Mm-hmm. Where when you see the water that's running, it's alive.
Cleaner.
Yeah. It's literally alive though. Like it cleans itself.
Sure.
Where when it's by itself, it's just dying, and that's how our bodies are. I just think that, you know, like, you are such a good example of what to do with what you have. All the injuries you've had, your shoulder, I mean, like, yeah, you just had a lot of stuff going on. And when you put that together, I mean, like, you look great, man.
Thank you.
You came out really good, and it wasn't just because if you get in the challenge, Vince will tell you, I'm going to win.
Oh yeah, you'll know
immediately.
I already started, and it hasn't even started yet.
I know, but you're good-hearted, and like everything is really innocent, and like if it's so, you've actually gotten to be friends with a couple of people who've been in the challenge, and like you're always really encouraging and all that kind of stuff. So everything you do is all in fun, even though I know you want to win.
Yeah,
so, you know,
of course.
Yeah.
Well, like somebody told me one time, and it's been several years ago. We're talking about working out and whatever. I'm like, oh man, that's going to take 2 months. And the person said, what have you done the last 2 months? Look how fast the last 2 months went, right?
Yeah.
So 8 weeks, it goes by fast, real fast. So you can change yourself in 8 weeks. I did. I mean, I had a drastic change in 8 weeks. Granted, I was fortunate enough to where I'm self-employed. I could get 2-a-days in. So I was doing a lot of 2-a-days. And 2-a-days was key.
Yeah.
And that was, you know, lifting whatever in the morning, 3 hours of racquetball at night, lifting again after that. So It was a lot.
But you know, like, that's true. I will follow that with this. And after this, we're going to take another quick little break. It's your mind, man. Yeah. It is so much your mind. Like, when you are ready to change, you'll make time to get up a little earlier and get 20 minutes of cardio in. You'll make time to get off work and make sure you go to the gym before you go home. Like, when you are ready to make a change, your body will change. It just is. There's levels to it, but when you are ready, and I can't make anybody do anything they don't want to do, they'll do it for me to appease me, and then they'll stop because they don't want to do it for them. And I'm the same way. Like, everyone's the same way. When you do it for the wrong reasons, you're doing it, but you're not doing it for you. Right. And when you do it for yourself, it changes. All right, guys, we're going to take one more quick little break. We'll be right back. All right, guys, and we're back. And so we were just talking about the last challenge that Vince won, and just the things that he had to do to be able to get through the challenge itself. And that applies to more people than they let on. You know, like, you're hearing us talk about our injuries and the things that we have to do, but you may be out there and you may have a stiff lower back. You may have, you know, achy knees, whatever the case is don't try to do what other people do. Do what you can do, not every day, but 4 or 5 times a week. Take care of yourself, go to the gym, go to the jacuzzi, get a massage, do whatever it is that you have to do to get your body the way that it needs to be to perform. And then you'll see, with consistency, you'll see results. Yeah. All right. So we started the show off by telling you, like, I met Vince at his school. And so you had a school for what, 20, 25 years?
20, just about 20 years.
Okay. Yeah. And so I loved being in your class. I hated being in your class. Oh my God.
The warm-ups.
The warm-up. I mean, it was burpees, mountain climbers, lunges.
And jumpy jacks. So we go 30 seconds of jumpy jacks, then 30 seconds of burpees, 30 seconds of jumpy jacks, 30 seconds of lunges, 30 seconds of jumpy jacks, 30 seconds of squats.
And I'm like,
3-minute rounds.
And I'm like, I was not, anyway, I love the class. And so now I teach people, you know, I'm in here training people, and I never, when I was younger, I never thought that I would love coaching people and, you know, just kind of being in their lives the way that I am. I love it. Like, I am, it still trips me out how much I get from it. I miss still being the player, but I love being the coach.
Yeah.
Well,
being the player, like, if you were to go play again after coaching, or let's say you went to play a sport that you've been coaching them in, you'll see how much advanced you've become.
Oh yeah, oh, for sure.
It's crazy. And that's how I got really good. I got extra good when I started teaching.
Yeah,
I started teaching at, like, brown belt.
Okay.
When I started teaching the lower belts. And that's when I got really good. Because I always tell people, like, I can show you a technique, a move, or whatever you want to call it. And if you drill it 100 times, you may know it. You drill it 1,000 times, you'll know it.
Yeah, yeah.
Drill it 10,000 times and you own it forever. So drillers make killers. That's what we say.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah. So that's a good one. But yeah, you learn. Like, for me, I had to learn. You know, like, again, I'm 6'5", 285, 286, right around there. I have to learn how to teach somebody your size how to make a technique work. A 120-pound female, 130-pound guy. I have to make that same technique work for each different person. So by doing that, I had to figure out on the fly, what do I have to do to make that body work for that person, which kind of self-taught me new technique or new angles of the technique. And that was very fulfilling, I guess you could say. It made my game up here.
So when I started training, and, you know, we do boxing a lot, and so I hold mitts for everybody, and so I feel like holding mitts for everyone has made me throw my hands that much better, because now I hold for someone big as you, and then I have someone who's jean size, who's like 5'3". Let's say she's 5'4". She's 5'4", and then everyone in between, and then the punches are coming from different angles. So I'm holding mitts for everyone, and now I'm seeing everybody's body styles. I'm seeing all the little things that you do, that she does, that he does, and so all of a sudden, like, now I'm real nice with the mitts. And then when I actually hit mitts, like, everything is that much better. So I totally get where you're coming from with that. And when I say if I was going to play again, not that I would try to play baseball or football, but, like, I just miss being the player where, like, you know, like when I would be playing, whether it was in high school or in the minors or out in college football, I'm the kind of guy that, like, if I played on Saturday, I'd get my clothes ready on Friday night. You know, like I would lay them out, like they'd be ready, and like I would only go over here when I was ready to. Like I had like a little routine thing that I did, you know, and then game day I did certain things, and I miss that. I miss like when I used to play with my boy Preston. We used to play, and we would do the same thing before the game, during the game, after the game, and it was just what we did, and I miss that part. Yeah. So like of course, you know, like I love being the coach, but it's all the little things aside from the game. Even though I miss the game too, and when I say game, I mean like whatever it is I'm doing.
Right.
Yeah, I just like being competitive, you know. So being a teacher, instructor. So or I know for jiu-jitsu, I've learned with Josh going to Logic, the masters there are named professors. What is are you guys masters, or like what's the?
So technically, my rank. I'm a 5th degree black belt in hapkido.
Okay.
Master rank is 6th degree.
Okay.
But when I had the falling out with my instructor, it was really ugly, and there was a whole hierarchy issue thing that he had this chip on his shoulder, and he said, "I am your master. I will always be here, and you'll be here. You'll never be above this." You know, it was gross. Mm. So I took out that whole master, sensei, all that bullshit, and I'm just Coach Vince.
Got it.
That's it.
Okay.
I didn't want to have that. They left a really bad taste in my mouth because I always looked up to those people. I always looked up to the people as a master instructor, and I still do. You know, if he's a professor in jiu-jitsu or a master, karate master, that's great. But when somebody tells me, you know, I am your master, nah, dude.
Yeah.
There's two people. My dad and the man himself, but you ain't one of them. So
got you.
I wanted to remove that. And that's so to answer your question. In my school, I was just Coach Vince.
Yeah, that's what I know you as
yeah,
coach.
I just want to be Coach Vince.
Okay.
In the other school association, black belts were always addressed as Mr. So and so or Miss so and so, Mrs. So and so, and then there was in the Japanese arts they call them sensei or senpai or whatever, it's shihan, but in our art it's Korean art. And we never really used Korean terminology, even though our grandmaster was full-on Korean, from Korea, like born there, whatever. Everything was done in English, so it was always Mr., yes sir, no sir.
Okay.
But yeah, my school was just Coach Vince.
Got it. So, you know, one of the things that, so aside from how I feel about you, just us being friends, one of the cool things for me is that, you know, so on Facebook, like you're loved. Like when you post something, like the guys who you've taught and the people who've been in your classes, like the allegiance to you is awesome. So it's cool for me. I know how I feel about you just from being at your school, just for the short time that I was. I know people have been with you for years. I actually used to hang out with a guy named Frank, Big Frank. We used to play golf together a little bit.
Oh, yeah, Camarena. He was actually coming to my. I was teaching again, and he was coming for a little bit.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah. And so coincidentally, you know, like I know you, he knew you, and he was just bragging about you to me, and I was like, yeah, I know, like this guy is a. So one of the cool things for me to know about you is that, like, you know, like everybody loves you, man. Like I know why. I mean, like you're this big, imposing, intimidating looking guy, but you're like the nicest guy, and like you were very giving with the way that you would teach us in class. And then, you know, after, if I got there early, you know, we would kind of just shoot the shit, and after I stayed there a little bit late, we would just talk. Like it was just really cool. So it is it's cool to see you get the credit that you deserve from the people. And I don't even know most of the people who say this, but yeah, it's cool for me to watch people get what they deserve when they're the good. You know what I mean?
Yeah, appreciate that.
Yeah. So yeah, guys. So are you going to be teaching anymore? Or are you? I know you
started teaching. I had a few guys I wanted to train again. Mm-hmm. I wanted to get them their black belts. Okay. But it was. The distance was coming into play, and a few people kind of fell out. So it was going to end up costing me money to teach, and I just kind of put the kibosh on it until I can find another place, and then we might do something later on. But right now, I'm not going to do it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, if he ever decides to train again, and you're looking for hapkido, or are you only doing hapkido?
Yeah, just hapkido right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, if he does, and you want hapkido, that's your guy right there. All right, guys. Vince, thanks for being on, man.
I appreciate you having me, man.
Definitely. Guys, the next challenge will be starting January 10th. Hopefully this episode will be out before then, so you'll be able to see that and all that kind of stuff. And if you have any questions or comments about anything that Vince and I talked about today, please leave them in the comment section. And yeah, we'll get back to you and let you know some answers if we can.
We'll see you guys in January. Better sign up.
That's right. That's right.
Coming for y'all.
All right, guys. I'll see you in the next show.